That's one of the things that Hungary is really good for, is there's a lot of different stuff you can visit. Every city has its own history, practically, and so there are a ton of things you can see. I can start with Budapest. Like, Budapest has a ton of locations. They have what's called Buda Castle. Budapest is separated into Buda and Pest, and they each lie on either side of the Danube. And Buda is over on the west bank, and they're the ones that, it's a really hilly city, and so there are a lot of different outlooks and things like that. One of the biggest ones is Buda Castle and the Fisherman's Bastion. And so there's this area just on top of the hill, and there's this big castle. It's got a big dome. And, you know, there's a cathedral up there. There's all these cobblestone squares. And then there's this bastion that it's kind of lame. You have to pay for it to go up on it. But you go up and you can see all of Budapest. You can see, like, the parliament over in the distance on the Pest bank of the river. You can see, like, this special mountain that they have, that there's a big statue on it that's holding up, like, an olive leaf, symbol of peace. And you can see the entire city practically. You can see, you know, you can see all the bridges. They have these really cool old bridges that go across the river, like 5 or 6 of them, and you can see all of those. The before mentioned mountain is another good place to go. It's called Gellert Hill, or like Gellert Hill. And this has that statue. Ironically enough, that statue is a symbol of peace. It was given to them by the Russians as like a symbol of their freedom from the Nazi occupation. So it was kind of a out of the frying pan into the fire type of situation, but for the time being they were really happy, and, you know, the Russians gave them this symbol of peace and things like that. But it's a cool statue. I mean, it's standing up there on the mountain. It's the first thing you see practically when you come into Budapest. And, you know, you can also get a really good view of the city. From there you can see Buda Castle and, you know, those other places, as well as the parliament and the river, things like that. So that's Budapest. And, you know, there are all kinds of things to do in Budapest too. There's, you know, theaters. I guess you can see movies if you want to see a movie in Hungarian. But, you know, they have shopping, they have malls, they have all that stuff. So it's a really cool old city. It's a good mix of modern and ancient. One of my favorite cities that I served in was called Pécs, and it's right down on the southwestern border by Croatia. And that was a beautiful city. It's really hilly, it's in the hills. They have a big TV tower that sits on the mountain that overlooks the city. And it's actually got a big disc around it that you can go up inside and look from. So that's really cool, first off. But in the center of the city, this was one of the places that was occupied by the Turks in Hungary for a while, because there was a Turkish occupation. And one of the biggest influences of that is the big mosque that they have right in the center of the city, in the Futér, which is translated as main square. They have the big mosque. You know, it's got that kind of mosque style. It's got a big green dome, brass dome. Kind of more square than a cathedral is. It's got like the, you know, kind of Arabic looking stained glass and things like that. But when the Turks left, and the Catholics sort of repossessed Hungary, they converted this mosque into a cathedral. And so you go inside and there are motifs of Jesus and Mary and all these people, but there's also like Arabic writing on the walls and these Turkish lanterns that hang from the ceiling. It's super cool. On the very top, they have this thing. It's like a crescent moon shape like this that they put on mosques. And so the Christians just put like a cross right here sitting on top of it. So, I mean, I guess that's making use of your resources, but it's really interesting. And then they have another 4-spired cathedral, which I think is like probably the closest looking thing to the Salt Lake Temple that they have. That's not Mormon. So I thought that was pretty cool. You know, it's just got 4 towers and kind of a center part that the 4 towers come off of. So, you know, they've got that big cathedral. The city center is beautiful. They have a street that's called King Street in Hungarian, and they have restaurants, bars. Not that many of us would go to those. They have hotels. They have the, you know, the National Theater. of Page is there, and I've actually been there to see plays before. It's really cool. Yeah, so they have that. Also in Page, they have some lakes that are really nearby that you can go fishing in, things like that. So that's also pretty neat. Scattered throughout Hungary, besides Page, you have remnants of all kinds of castles that they had. I visited a few like abandoned castles when I was there. They're nothing like that big Disney one that you have in Germany in the Alps, but is pretty cool to see because, you know, it really told you how they lived, how they defended, things like that. We went to see one and you could just see all these villages surrounding it from the top of the tower. And I thought that was pretty cool too. You know, it just kind of showed you that there have been tumultuous times in those places. It was really peaceful at the time, but, you know, you could tell that there had been wars and conflicts. It is one of the oldest countries in the world that exists as it is now. And, you know, thus you can see all of the different periods of history that they had there.